Greetings and welcome to Hexed Countered. I'm Joe. In this video, we're going to be doing a first look at the game, the Kaisers High Seas Fleet, the Great War at Sea, 1914 to 18. This is designed by Gilbert Collins and is published by Compass Games. Now, I'm doing this during Tanktoberfest, but it's kind of a special thing to lead into November, which is going to feature some naval games, this being one of those games. So give you a little sneak preview of what we'll be doing next month here as we go to the high seas for a month that will feature several different naval games. We'll be back to Tanktoberfest in the next day or so, but for now, let's take a look at the Kaisers High Seas Fleet. All right, this is the back of the box, as you probably can tell. This is a medium complexity game. It is a time scale of one turn being 6 months. Map scale is approximately 80 miles. Unit scale are ships/squadrons. It's a 2-player game, but is rated high suitability for solitaire. And average time to play is 4 hours or less. We get a map, 4 counter sheets with 292 counters, 2 task force cards, 2 shipyard cards, 6 six-sided dice, 1 rules booklet, 1 charts and table aid. A little look here at some of the counters and the map. And as we probably can read here, it says take to the seas, command dreadnought fleets, and fight key territories that could turn the tides of World War I. The Kaisers High Seas Fleet is a simple game inspired by John Edwards' War at Sea, first published in 1975. Veteran players will recognize some of the original concepts. As this is a game of World War I, there are some important differences. One player takes the Central Powers consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey. The other player takes the Entente powers consisting of Great Britain, France, Italy, Russia, and eventually the United States. Portugal and Greece are represented as neutral powers, where docking and limited ship repairs are available for the Entente. All right. So let's take a look inside the box. All right, open it up. Okay, here are our 6 D6s, baggies, then our rule book, weighing in at 20 pages, including the back. Okay, then we've got our player aids and so on. We've got our task force chart here for the Central Powers. Take a quick look at that. You can see the squadrons here. First squadron, that's the German Navy there. And here we have the Austrians, or the Austro-Hungarians, I guess, and the Turks. Single-sided, of course, because we also would have one for the Allies, or the Entente, as they were known. So you have Great Britain, of course, would have the biggest, as you would expect, with the Royal Navy being such a force. And you have France, Italy, Russia, and the USA. Well, those are our task force charts. Then we have our charts and tables here. Your sequence of play. Over here, we've got our bonus movement table, the engagement table, merchant shipping table, and mine combat, single-sided as well. Then we have our German shipyard card for the Germans and their Central Powers allies. You have 8 German Empire ports, 2 for the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and 1 Constantinople for the Turks, of course, the Ottomans. Then here we have a surface combat mat, and the British shipyards. Actually, this has a surface combat mat as well. I forgot to mention that, but here's the British. 10 ports in the United States, 10 in Great Britain, 1 Gibraltar, 3 Brest, Toulon, 2 Italy, 4 Malta, 1 Rhodes is a 0, and Egypt is a 2. Then we have our counters and our map, and we'll save those because what I want to do first is take a look here at our rule book. So we'll slide that out of the way, and we'll take a look at our rules here. Okay, table of contents, introduction, which kind of covers the same information we saw in the back of the box. Here are the short forms of various things in here. TRM, turn record marker, that one stands out to me as being probably a little bit less obvious than some of these other ones. Bonus movement phase is BMP, bonus movement table, BMT. Okay, winning, the objective is to score as many victory points as possible at the end of each turn. They're marked on the victory point track during the area control phase. The player whose marker is on the track is ahead in points at the end of the July-December 1918 turn. The player whose marker is showing wins the game. If the marker is at 0, the Entente player wins, but the Central Power has gained a moral victory. And we learn about our map board here, which we'll see in a little bit. You've got mines. Areas depicting mines come into play after turn 1. Repairs. Wrench symbols represent ports where damaged ships can be repaired and new ships arrive as reinforcements. Components. We talked about that. Now let's take a look here because we've got a ship counter so we can see what's involved there. It is the Iron Duke of the Royal Navy. You can see the name at the top, the country flag in the left there, or towards the bottom. Fire factor, bottom left, fire factor 4. In this case, our defense factor in the middle there is also a 4. It is a BB, that is a battleship, dreadnought. We have a 4th squadron, and then the silhouette of the ship itself. Ships with no squadron can choose to attach themselves to a squadron. This may remain the same or be a different squadron each turn. Unlike other ships, U-boats and the British submarine unit do not have a fire or defense factor. Here's a look at the U-boat with its turn of entry and its dice to roll for merchant shipping attacks. Okay, pre-dreadnoughts can never engage in any form of combat, unlike individual surface ships. U-boats and the submarine do not represent individual vessels, but rather the capability of the anti-shipping power a player projects into an area. So they're a little bit abstracted. Then we have our informational counters, hit markers, break-off markers, sunk, control, and the turn marker, turn record marker, TRM. We'll go through the setup here. Then our sequence of play, the mutual reinforcement phase, where each player consults his task force chart and places his ships at ports of their nation on their turn of entry. Mutual repair phase, where each player repairs damaged vessels and flips those counters to indicate they cannot move this turn. Then you have your Entente movement phase, your Central Power movement phase, the Entente bonus movement phase, and the Central Power bonus movement phase. Our combat phase is G, and it looks like you do U-boats and submarines resolve their attacks. As the first thing, they can attack merchant shipping and or surface vessels, while the submarine unit can only attack surface vessels. Submarine unit being, I suppose, the Entente equivalent of the German U-boats. If friendly and enemy ship squadrons are in the same area, both sides must roll on the engagement table to determine how many ships and squadrons of each side actually engage. This could result in no battle taking place. Then we have an area control and victory point phase, and then the return to port phase. They return, all the ships and squadrons, U-boats and submarine, return to the closest friendly port matching their nationality. All control markers are removed. Watch out for minefields, squadrons, and individual ships. Do not get a free movement through a minefield. In the turn record phase, then you've got squadrons, and explains what the squadron markers are for. They allow the players to move fewer counters rather than stacks of ships, thus reducing counter clutter. British, German, and USA ships are assigned to specific squadrons as noted on the respective task force charts. They also confer a significant advantage with regard to combat. I won't go into all the detail because we plan on playing this, so we'll see all that in there. Movement, you're not obliged to move your stuff around, but you can. You also have a bonus movement phase where ships and squadrons can attempt to move into one additional area. The British 5th Battle Squadron and all battle cruisers of both sides can attempt to move into one or two additional areas, probably because they're slightly faster. Then you've got your bonus movement table that we saw on the player aid card. How U-boats and submarines are placed, not moved. The rules for placing them, your British strategic movement, restrictions in the Baltic Sea, restrictions in the Black Sea, or smaller areas, obviously. Raids. As an alternative to taking control of sea areas, the Central Powers can execute raids against coastal towns in Great Britain or merchant ships. Combat rules. You've got mine combat. Then we have U-boat versus merchant shipping combat. Here's the shipping table. Then you have U-boats versus capital ships. And down here we have the engagement table where you roll to find out who is going, if there is going to be a battle. And there's procedures for this, and then surface combat. This is probably the core thing that most people would be interested in the game. Again, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the details when we do gameplay. Then we have disengagement over here. Victory points and area control, how is that determined, right? Mines and submarines, repairs and neutral ports, allied navies, right? Because you have navies from various nations that are all on the same side. You have to have rules for how they would operate with each other. Reinforcements, our special rules. And then you have battle procedure examples. So there are some examples of play in here. Maybe we'll go through this when we do gameplay or setup. You've got disengagement. You've got a battle with pursuit fire here. This is cool. We've got several pages of examples here. So this will be very useful for learning the game. And perhaps I will walk through this. This will probably, of course, be the first of the Naval November games. And back here we have our designer notes right here from Gilbert Collins. Then some player tips for both the Entente and the Central Powers. And then your kind of standard compass, how you get in touch with them, if you have any issues, and all that good stuff, how to take care of that. And on the back is the index, and then your relevant ports as well. And then neutral ports for the Entente player only, Portugal, Rhodes, and Greece. All right. And now we'll look at our counters. So here we have some British ships. As you can see with the battle cruisers there in the upper left corner, you've got your battleships here. Whole bunch of them. There's the Iron Duke we saw before, the King George V, etc. So nothing smaller than a battleship here. These are your individual ships. Well, nothing smaller than a battle cruiser, sorry. Then you've got some more over here. There were a lot of them. There's the submarines. There's some pre-dreadnought groupings. Right, then we have the Italians here, the Dante Alighieri, the Andrea Doria, one pre-dreadnought, Leonardo da Vinci. Then we've got the French. They have their own pre-dreadnought, of course, and Lorraine, Corbeil, France, Jean Bart, etc., Paris. The Russians. All right. Then we have some more Russians on here as well, along with the Americans with their battleships. Austrians, their U-Boote. Right. Some blanks here. And then, of course, we have the Germans. And you can see the squadron designations on the ones that are assigned. Then you have Württemberg, which is optional. There's the Goeben, which was in the Mediterranean. You have some scouting battle cruisers here. They got the U-boats. There's several of those, 4 it looks like. Pre-dreadnoughts. And of course, we already saw that. Then we have our markers. So control, you would assume both sides. Sunken markers. Oh, we didn't look at the back of these. You can see the backs just have the flag to denote what they are. And the same for the other ones, of course. All the ship counters are going to be identical in that regard. Then we have our hit markers, 2 on one side, 1 on the other. Breaking off the turn markers, victory point tracks, and the 4-hitter with the 3-hitter on the other side. They come out real easy because I just almost punched that out, and a couple more sunk markers. And then we have these circle dudes here, lots of blanks. But these are the markers for your squadron, so you can see the British have 5. The Americans have the 6th squadron, and then there are 2 German squadrons and a scouting squadron. And the rest of this is blank. All right. It is now map time. Okay, here is a look at the map for the Kaisers High Seas Fleet, the Great War at Sea, 1914 to 18. And you got a lot of water, as you would expect, right? But it's primarily centered, of course, around Europe. Got the North and South Atlantic, although this really isn't the South Atlantic. But in terms of the game scope, it is. The Azores, Western Med, the Eastern Med, Black Sea, the Aegean, the Adriatic, Baltic, the North Sea, various areas here, the English Channel, and the Western approaches. And you can see these, I believe, are the victory point values for each of these areas. And the wrench and hammer here would indicate ports, right? So there's Toulon. We've got Italy here. That's their 4 ports. Brest, of course. Here's neutral Portugal. Here's Gibraltar. Here's Rhodes over here. Constantinople, Sevastopol, here in St. Petersburg. And the Germans just have 8, probably stretched along the coast there, as you would think. And the same for Austria-Hungary, which has just 2. Not a particularly strong naval power. The Germans had a big fleet, and of course the Royal Navy had a big fleet as well. Sorry, it got turned a little bit. We've got tracks here at the bottom. Here are your turn tracks. You get 1 turn in 1914, and then 2 in 15, 16, 17, and 18, for a total of 9. And then you have your victory points ranging from 10 blue all the way to 10 red. Red being the Entente, not the Entente, sorry, the Central Powers, I think, and the blue being the Entente. All right, this is your map. It's pretty nice. It's large, sturdy, mounted. Pretty good stuff. Lays pretty flat. I didn't really do much to it. It's got a little bow in it, but it'll settle down quite nicely. So this is very nice. Looking forward to getting this one to the table. So that is going to do it for our look at the Kaisers High Seas Fleet, designed by Gilbert Collins and published by Compass Games. Quick shout out to my channel members. As always, thank you guys for your support. And you see them all named here. And that will do it for this particular video. So thanks for watching. If you would consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing, that would be awesome and greatly appreciated. Big thanks also to my current subscribers. Thank you for your support. And if you have any comments, anything to say, you know what to do, put it in the old comment section. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. But we are done. So I am out of here. This is Joe. It is the Hexed Countered channel. And this is a little sneak preview type thing here for Naval November, which will be coming up here in a couple weeks. And until then, happy gaming.